Welcome to the Clean Energy Transition Podcast. My name is Tuomas Vanhanen and I'm your host from Finland. In this podcast, we are diving deep into the energy systems, especially related to energy storage and sector coupling. In this very first episode of the podcast, we have picked two projects that we will highlight out of the large project portfolio of joint programming platform Smart Energy Systems, which is also publishing this podcast. These projects will focus on energy storage, energy communities, and even in the very end of our episode, we will hear a quite bold proposal of how should we really think about energy transition, how to give power to the people. But before going into the projects, we will start with an introduction to the topic and how can we really get the transition going. So hop in, welcome aboard, let's go. Our first guest today will be Minna Nesman from Click Innovation and also heavily involved in the knowledge community of Eranet Smart Energy Systems. Minna has wide background as being recently a research director of a consultancy, partnership director of a smart heating solutions company, and also has long experience at a large utility company in Finland. She holds a PhD in ethics. Thank you, Minna, for joining us to this podcast. You're very warmly welcome.
Thank you, Tuomas.
So we're discussing storage and cross-energy carrier synergies. What does this exactly mean? Can you maybe give like an, regular Joe's or average Joe introduction to this topic?
Regular Joe knows that wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. So when we are shifting more and more to such energy forms, renewable energies, we need to balance the production somehow. And that's where we come into storages of different kind, into flexibility mechanisms of different kind. And this difficult term cross-energy carrier has to do with that we have technologies to transfer energy from one form to another. For example, from electricity to heat by using heat pumps that are electricity driven but produce heat in the buildings, for example.
So this is all coming together in the Smart Energy Systems Eranet and the joint programming platform. So there are many countries involved, lots of research institutes, companies, and so on. How can you get all these pieces to function together?
It is the people that make pieces function together everywhere, so also in the knowledge community that we are building. Researchers that are conducting these projects that have been funded by national funding agencies in European Union, they come together to discuss, for example, what is topical in their projects, what have they learned, such things that also policymakers should know, or business developers should know, or average Joe should know.
All right, and these policy briefs, you have quite a nice setting of different types related to system architecture, also more technical stuff, more business model related stuff. This is a wide spectrum.
There are three layers that we are addressing. It's the technical one, as you mentioned, there's the market layer, and then adoption. And that's why many of these projects are demonstrating. They are learning by doing and then comparing the results transnationally between different demonstrations, and also in the knowledge community, we try to create possibilities for this research to exchange experiences also transnationally across projects.
Can you say, related to your latest discussions, could you give a highlight of a policy recommendation that you have come up with?
Very concrete one is this challenge of building renewable energy or local renewable production always together with these storages and flexibility mechanisms. Because from the grid point of view, if we don't do this, we need to transfer electricity from one place to another, and that means we need more grid connectivity. We need to invest in electricity lines. But if we build flexibility on site where the local renewable energy is generated, then we can balance the grid in a better way. And it's also fair from the citizens' perspective if we, from the beginning, plan how the flexibility is going to be created. Because coming in afterwards, some years after putting up windmills or solar power plants or panel parks, and then telling that we also need a huge electrical storage, for example, or whatever, that is it is possible that it can even create resistance. So for the transparency, it's much better that we take the whole problem at once and make the planning from the beginning so that congestion can be avoided and regulation can be drafted and created for these kind of systems that are new for everybody.
In this podcast, we're discussing these topics with Anna Nilsson from Sweden with FlexiSync project, and then with Stefan Wilka from the Technical University of Vienna related to Sonde project. And both of them kind of quite deeply go into like using machine learning and all that kind of stuff to really estimate the consumption patterns or the demand curves, and how these renewable energy is affecting those at the customer end, and also related to storages. Would you say that these are good examples of the research that is being done?
Yes, and it's fantastic how much you can simulate in advance. There really is much knowledge to tap into. And that's why we in the knowledge community want to make that knowledge accessible to everybody who has to do with these questions.
Do you see any already setbacks or some kind of barriers or difficulties in this? I don't know. Maybe even slightly idealistic view of empowering the customers, the people behind those electricity meters, and making them like really an active part of the energy system.
There I see more possibilities than setbacks.
Well, that's very good. Very good.
It's not like we have done everything that we could with people. People are very good at what they do. They use the energy they need in clever ways. They are interested in how it is produced, and they are willingly cooperating when they get the chance. But there is, of course, the barrier of technical language, of needing to know more than you know, and so on. But if you can step over that barrier, if you can tell about those things in a way that people understand, there is much to harvest in the energy that these people have.
Yeah, still in these projects, I don't see that much of this side, like the humanities or psychology or that kind of stuff. But maybe it is there. There is the consumer and citizen involvement included, but maybe there's still
already the demonstration approach brings you there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
As soon as you have with real people to do, you don't need to know psychology. But if you need to encounter real people, you're on the safe side, because then you have their viewpoint, and then you have that in your simulations as well. Because the greatest danger is that you only simulate the technical or maybe the economic aspects of the whole, but that remains very theoretical, and that misses a lot of knowledge. But bringing people in keeps you safe from that.
Yeah, let's hope that with these kind of projects we can really get there, that everybody would be eager to join, because still it would be, not honest to say that there is no kind of resistance to the change.
Of course, we all resist change to begin with, but we can be flexible and adapt if we see what the better future is that this change is coming with. And what you are doing right here is what should be done. The more we talk about these things with each other, the more information is spread, the more people hear about these things and learn to talk about them, the better, of course, the better solutions we will get.
Thank you, Minna, so much.
Thank you. Good luck.
That was Minna Nesman, Head of Energy at the Click Innovation. Our next guest comes from Sweden. Anna Nilsson is the project manager of the FlexiSync project, working for the IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute. I think you had an excellent point in this, your annual report from last year, with the title, Integrating the Heating and Electricity Sectors Has Never Been So Important as Now. And I know you have background in, quite, could I say, technical background as well. I mean, with energy systems.
Yeah, I'm actually coming from the electricity side of energy systems, I would say, because I've been working a number of years with electricity distribution in Sweden. And now, since almost 2 years back, I'm now at IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute. And here I've been mainly involved with district heating. So now I kind of have two sides of it, of the energy systems, at least. And it's just missing the gas side of the energy system, I would say, and the fuel side. But yeah, I have a kind of a technical background working mainly with innovation projects in electricity and in district heating. But I have a Master of Science in Energy Systems, so I mainly have a technical background. But I'm really interested in the political and economic aspects of it as well, which is really important in this area, I would say. And
also your research project, can I say research project, but it's quite nice in this way that you also have utility companies, you have some actual energy companies working together with you in this project. So it's not only at the laboratory or at the research institutes, but it's also hands-on to the actual energy system.
Yeah, I would say this is really applied research in its core, and also very close to commercialization of these innovations that we're working with in this project. So it's pretty nice to have the end user side of heating in this case, and also the producers of heat, and also energy service companies and innovators in this area. So it's a good mix of organizations in this project.
You have a total of 16 partners that says this. That is said in your annual report. You have maybe you're halfway of your project. You started in 2019. What would you say has been the most interesting part so far?
I think the most interesting part is that what we're doing in this project, it actually works quite well in practice. So what we're doing is just a brief, short introduction to what we're doing is that we're trying to optimize both supply side and demand side flexibility in the district heating grid by using novel approaches like machine learning and a platform for optimizing this. And we have implemented some parts of it already in the project. We're going to test it more in live operation during next heating season. But so far it's nice to see that this is actually working in practice. So that's the main takeaway so far, I would say.
And you also have done some estimation with heat storages, at least in your demo sites in Austria and Spain. Is this correct?
Yes, or what would you say is a heat storage? I was wondering.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I was thinking there are like storage tanks. That's like a conventional way to store heat, I would say, like in hot water. But you can also regard a house as an energy storage or a heat storage. And you can also regard the grid as heat storage to some extent.
Yes.
Since you have this thermal inertia of the water or the house or etc. So it's when you say thermal storage, there are different types of or ways to store thermal energy, I would say. But yeah, we have some like traditional thermal storages in the demo sites. So in the Austrian site, we have one storage, but that's a smaller sized storage tank, I would say. But then in one of the other, one of the Swedish demo sites, we have a major storage tank, I would say. But it's not so much used in the projects because they are already utilizing it quite a lot. So what we are adding is really the storage of the buildings.
Could you kind of describe what is the difference between, you can say, traditional hot water storage tank for heat compared with this thermal inertia of buildings?
The main difference, I would say, is the ownership. I mean, the utility or the energy company is often owning the hot water storage tanks or the large storage tanks, while the storage that is in a building, it's not owned by the energy company. So here you need some kind of business model or some way to actually be able to use the demand side storage, I would say. So that's a huge difference, I would say.
Do you have some housing companies involved in this project?
Yeah, we have on the Swedish part of the project, we have 3 different housing companies involved. So one for each of the energy companies. All of these 3 are customers of the energy companies that are also partners. So they are very much involved, and we have also implemented some measures on their side, on the substations, etc. And they are very much also involved in this discussion about business models. Because of course, if the energy company is to use the buildings as some kind of asset in their optimization, they also want to have some financial support or some kind of how would I say incentives for actually making the energy company use it. So some kind of business model is needed here, and that's a question that is being raised both by the energy companies and the housing companies or customers of the energy companies.
This might be a bit specific, but do you think there is a need for some kind of aggregator or some kind of service company still in between the housing company and the energy company?
That is one setup. I don't know if it really needs to be an aggregator. I know aggregators are really common in electricity side. And it could also be of use, of course, for district heating. But yeah, that is one potential business model, of course, that it's some kind of third party joining in. But there are also different ways to do this. I mean, with different types of pricing models that the energy company can use, for example, and so. But there can be different types of setups, and that's something that we are exploring in the project as well. One of the organizations are looking into that as well, different types of setups or pricing models that could be used.
I'm really interested in these couple of demo sites that you have in Borås, I think in Sweden, and then Eskilstuna, that you have heat pumps together with district heating. I know this is something that is happening also in Finland. What have we learned so far?
Heat pumps, there's a huge discussion ongoing on competition from heat pumps for the district heating system. But I mean, it's also adding aspects of flexibility to the system. If it's an opportunity to alternate between district heating and heat pumps. But I think society has really pushed for electrification and not really looked into like an energy system perspective, looking into what is the most efficient use of energy. Is it using electricity to produce heat, or is it using heat directly? Or so it's an issue that you haven't really looked into the whole perspective on what is the most efficient use. In some areas, it might be the most efficient to use just a heat pump, but in some areas, it might be more efficient society-wise to actually use the district heating system. But it's a debate or a discussion on.
Yeah, I'm sure, and also because the roles are changing. The utility companies and energy producers traditionally have owned it all, and now there are other players joining in, also producing in smaller scale. It's the same, I guess, in electricity, that this is kind of new age that we are entering. I think this was really interesting what you said about the kind of dynamics between these different players, like energy companies and the housing. This is a difficult question, but I mean, how is the dynamics between them evolving over time? Because I think previously everybody were just separated, and they kind of, one was paying the bills of the other, but nowadays people are, and these companies and housing companies, they're working more closely together. I don't know if this can, continue even further with, energy communities or this kind of new ways.
But I think you're right in that there's a trend going from like the utilities are, that the customers are quite anonymous to the energy companies, both on electricity side and district heating side. And now that the energy companies are starting to realize that they have to in some way cooperate more with their customers. They have to have new offers to their customers, and they have to have more of a communication, like a two-way communication with their customers to understand the needs of the customers. I remember while working with power distribution that the customers, they said that the customers were more called like loads in the grid before, and they were not really customers, they were more loads and kind of annoying in the grid. But now it's more about like, okay, we need to find ways to actually be an attractive company, even though you have kind of a monopoly situation because you're the only owner of the grid in the area or so. And the same for district heating companies, that they have kind of a monopoly situation, but they still have to be attractive, especially with competition from other types of energy carriers or, for example, heat pumps and so. So it's moving towards more of a commercial way to see the customer and have a more of a dialogue with the customers. And I think that's also that's something that's shown in this project as well, because it's really important to have both sides, both the customers and the suppliers of energy. And it's interesting to see the dialogue between these, and the housing companies are very important customers to the energy companies and district heating companies.
All right. Hey, this has been a really good conversation. Maybe Anna, if you could just elaborate still on one thing, like you're going to end this project, is it by the end of next year?
Yeah, by the end of next year, we hope to be finalizing this work.
Yeah. So if you envision the, that date, the last day of next year, obviously then you will be thinking about, your New Year celebration, hopefully without the COVID-19 still on and all that. But what is your vision for this project? What can you then tell the policymakers and everybody else about what did you learn?
Yeah, since we were really focusing on producing some kind of commercial product in this project, like a optimization tool and that could be used, we really want to. The goal is to actually have all the partners joining in and saying that, oh, we want to use this tool, or we want to take it to the market. And also being able to say to policymakers that we have this and we can do this, and please help us and not put any regulations. So this is actually making barriers to what we actually can do in the energy system. So that would be my vision for the end of the project, I would say.
All right, sounds good. Do you have any ideas what are the main chunks of regulation that this would involve?
I would say who can participate with flexibility in different ways on the energy markets, both customers of in the energy system and producers of energy, and also so that would be the main thing, I would say. Who can be able to provide flexibility on the energy markets.
And by who you mean, what type of companies?
Yeah, what type of company, what type of size, or even not companies, maybe a housing association or so.
All right. Thank you, Anna, for the interview. It has been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
That was Anna Nilsson from the IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute. All right, and our final guest today will be Stefan Wilker, an assistant professor, project and group manager at the Technical University of Vienna. He comes from the ICT, Energy and IT group, and let's dive into the conversation now. Today we have Stefan Wilker from Technical University of Vienna. So, Stefan, a warm welcome to this podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Especially, it's a pleasure for me to discuss with you because I have also spent almost 1 year in Vienna studying at your university. I know how great place it is and the high quality stuff that you are doing. So, very pleased to have you here. Can you maybe give all of us a really quick introduction to this Sonder project that you have? The actual acronym Sonder is quite good because it's short. Because the actual topic, the title is so long that I'm not gonna repeat it. But what are you guys doing exactly?
So thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. In Sonder, we are collaborating together with partners from Austria, of course, and with partners of Sweden and of Switzerland together to, work on our vision. Well, we have different national focuses in the ongoing work packages. So in Austria, we are basically mostly focused on the integration of industrial partners and companies towards into energy community. This is a new upcoming concept for people of the domain. It might be well known for those who are new to this topic. It is a new way it enables a little bit the bottom-up approach or the bottom-up empowerment of the energy transition. And this is the Austrian focus. We have our Swiss partners where they work together with the city of Arban, where they make a new novel graph-based prediction on the loads. So they have a really good and huge set of smart meter data there. And they are also operating with battery energy storage there. And our partners in Sweden are basically investigating the potential how data centers could be used in the future for using either more the renewable energy resources, but also a little bit of load balancing and such topics. And we are also trying to establish like a common interface so we can say, okay, for these upcoming energy communities, we could, for example, use data centers also as participants in such.
Actually, another point of view I would still like to discuss here in the beginning is that, you were discussing energy communities, which basically, if I put it in a more, maybe to myself, to more understandable form, means power to the people. I mean, not electrical power, but power to the people. So, and people are used to this kind of digital services nowadays. So do you think that actually there might be some connection here between the digital services we use every day, like this Zoom app or something like that, and then energy communities?
Well, it's certainly a lot about raising awareness, right? You have this Friday for Futures movement where also like the pupils of schools are saying like, hey, okay, please care about our future. But you need to understand that everything we do today is always connected to electricity. And therefore, we should also be a little bit more responsible to it. The energy community idea or concept is basically a tool that can enable also neighborhoods or municipalities to actually give something to the people to say, okay, now you can much more easy have your own PV installations and give the electricity to your neighbors so they can advantage from either your investment or from a common investment, depending, of course, how it will be settled. And this requires dialogue. And I guess this is also a little bit part of the process that needs to be done. But I see it more and more happening. So I guess this is a good thing.
Still coming back to this energy community point of view, it is meant for citizens. I mean, there are renewable energy communities and then there are citizen energy communities, but they both are kind of, it's about citizen engagement and not new tools for the DSOs and for those operators. Or am I a bit wrong here?
No, you're exactly right. So it's really meant for the people that they have now the legal opportunity to say, okay, we are doing an energy community and we want to do that. And the legislation has to ensure that this is possible. It will be or is to be defined as a new type of legal entity, right? This is something you have to be aware of, but basically they are allowed to do so, and they should certainly make use of their right.
And then, okay, maybe this is a bit detailed question, but now when you are speaking about load forecasting, maybe even stationary battery systems, are these some type of tools that the energy community could use, or are they more to the utilities?
I guess in the future it will be a little bit of a mix, right? I mean, the grid operator is obliged to ensure the safety of the grid, but the grid operator will not go to a municipality and say, hey, it would be a great idea to install the PV installations or storages there. I mean, storages he might be saying, right? But basically, at least from my experience right now, it's the what is the mayors of the municipalities are saying, like, we want to be a green community, we want to be a green city or a green village, and we want to invest it now, and then over this tool can also give something back to their citizens, basically. But this is only possible with the help of the citizens, because maybe they have to give away some space on the rooftop, for example.
I would like to actually tweak your mind a bit about the IT stuff. You know?
Yes.
You know all about ICT, and I also get one magazine at home which is like, you know, do-it-yourself IT stuff magazine.
Yes.
And this is my level of understanding. So what is, you know, hip and cool related to IT right now?
Hip and cool related to IT. Well, I might take the opportunity and say what is hip and cool for IT in the energy system, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So there has been a movement, let's say. We started from Austria, or one partner of in Sonder started, and this is basically the IES approach, right, or the IES initiative. And IES stands for Integrating the Energy System, and it's basically a well-proven concept that has been transferred in its core, or from its core, from the medical sector, actually, because the IHE, Integrating the Health Enterprise, realized like 20 or 22 years ago that it's that you have problems exchanging information, or dealing with different protocols, or sending data files of different formats, right? And so, and our partners from the technology platform Smart Grids Austria, it had a huge project on this, and they basically followed the same rules, right? So you need to start to make to define some profiles. So you get a technical framework started where you have integration profiles in it specified.
So please, what do you mean by profiles? Like in, you know, remember I only read the one magazine.
So basically, you need to define which type of device expects something. So, I mean,
like a heat pump.
Like a heat pump, for example, yes. So if you want to control a heat pump, and if it's controllable, it expects a certain value or a certain command that allows it to actually be controlled. So,
like the outdoor temperature or indoor temperature. Or...
For example, I mean, for the heat pump itself, within itself, it's working, because otherwise you wouldn't buy the product. But if you start to connect it with other systems, then you're always facing the challenge that is this really working? Or does it need some implementational efforts to really get all the proper readings and values to your system? For example, for a custom energy management system, which then is the master of the heat pump or other devices, right? And so with this framework or with this process, basically we encourage vendors and developers to follow a standard, to specify, and then the real challenge, and also a little bit of highlight, is to then sit together and actually test it against each other. So in the medical sector, they do it in a really huge halls, right? And then they are basically getting some sort of certification that these and these and these products of them or services have been tested against each other and are following this protocol in an interoperable way. So, because when you say you offer some kind of interface that you are able to be connected via Ethernet or something, right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean you plug it in and it works. I mean, for Ethernet, yeah, most of the time, but then also the things that are developed behind it, how the data is represented, is something different. And this is something we push forward. And yeah, this is one of our real motivations. Yeah, this is cool. This is cool. Yes, because the health sector has actually shown it works and it's good for them. So we want to show the energy sector it works and it's good for the energy transition.
All right. So this is totally voluntary based. There is no, mandatory regulation that you have to use this integrating the energy system approach.
To the best of my knowledge, no, sadly not.
But you would like that. So now when we are making kind of policy recommendations, would you say that now we should make a law saying that everybody should go with this framework?
It would certainly accelerate things, yes, or at least in our perspective.
Mm-hmm. I will call you later on. All right, but this definitely makes sense. I mean, I loved when they standardized this USB-C, for example.
Yes.
So all the phones, basically, almost all the phones, except one huge company, is using that. So I love it. I don't always have to find my own charger. I can borrow, or the Bluetooth, headphones typically work no matter which phone and which manufacturer of the headphones. So why not in the energy sector as well?
Yes, exactly. And you always need to think a little bit goal oriented, right? Because like with this example of this charging plugs, right? I mean, what is the goal, or what was the goal? I mean, I don't want to dig into a company policy, but basically you want that your product is used, right? And you do not want that it is just used with your charger because, I mean, this is not giving the user experience that is, or at least back in the days, it was not the user experience. Like, do you have a charger of this type? No, I only have this. Wait, I asked my mother or my friend.
Exactly. So now, I hope this goes through so that when I will get my home project, we are building a house, so building project ready, and I'm going to choose a heat pump. So I hope I will be able to plug that into the internet and, also balance the energy system. Maybe
it would be great to see.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, hey, that's one final thing. We have 3 minutes. I don't know if you have the time still.
I have.
But I would like to read out loud of this paper that you sent to me. We can then take this out if it's too much, but I really like this approach by your project. This is of course unofficial, but I asked what kind of policy recommendations you would have, and this is what one of you wrote: get regulations done to enable the energy transition pushed forward by the energy customers. Allow them to bypass the energy market and the entire energy system establishment that did not complete all transition or the transition in the last 30 years. So let people do the job that the market couldn't.
Yes, certainly. I mean, in many ways, we have seen a lot of development. Our lives have changed a lot. I mean, with the impact of the pandemic, started 2020 for later listeners, it has been a huge push forwards to digitalization, but we also need a push forward into the energy transition, and therefore we need to get this done a little bit by the customers.
Great. So get this done by the customers. That was a perfect actually ending to this.
Woohoo!
Yay! Hey,
Great.
Stefan, thank you so much. It has been a complete pleasure to discuss this with you.
Yes, thank you also.
And like that, we ended our last episode with Stefan Vilka from Technical University of Vienna. I don't know, what do you think? Was that a radical proposal, or is it actually just saying out loud the vision of the future, where the individual people are actually really an active part of the energy system, where the people actually own assets through energy communities, which is the rightful thing to do? We heard the policy recommendation of building renewable energy with storages. We heard that energy communities are a tool for integrating renewable energy, as well as sector coupling, because through sector coupling we get to use the energy storages that are not in the electricity sector, but in buildings, in hot water tanks, elsewhere in the energy system. But definitely the citizen engagement, the power to the people perspective that we took, definitely this is something that we will be focusing on in our next episodes as well. Thank you so much. My name is Tuomas Vanhanen. This was the Clean Energy Transition podcast, funded by the Nestling Foundation and published by joint programming platform Smart Energy Systems. For more information, please go to eranet-smartenergysystems.eu.